Hey guys, I'm back. And this is another random share. I'm sure a lot of people have probably come across this book here, but I was wrapping some things up. Excuse me. I was wrapping some things up after I did that last video, and then I was gonna close this down, and then I just started. No. I started looking for something else within. Let's see. Oh yeah, somebody asked me on Facebook if I could give them a reference for this image right here. And the funny thing is, last night I was just watching a video about Columbus, and I think it was somebody trying to show that they were on some uh, bull when they trying to show the representation of the people that were found here. And it was a video, and they showed this particular scene here. But even the person was calling out that it was kind of weird that they were saying that this is what the people look like, because the people really didn't look like that. And so this, I put this up the other day, and this is more of a proper representation of at least the tone of people. Now, see, this is the thing. Once you hear that they were, if or see these depictions of these darker people in these older books, and once you hear that there must have been darker people, your whole radar should go off and start asking questions. Now, you don't have to automatically believe something just because it's coming up, but I'm just saying, pay attention. Even these images here show people with like a Grecian style dress. They never show these people by their homes, really, particularly in these older images here. They just show them on the shores or doing something or going to get, they look like they just chilling, really, on the banks. And this is what's coming up here. So, it look like they're showing somebody like, look, or whatever. So, again, this is going to bring me to, I was trying to, usually, and I'll tell you guys, I'm sure you people that know how to search already know this, but just in case, whenever I have something that I bring up like this image, I found it on my computer that was stored here from years ago. And like I told you guys before, I have a real big issue with having a lot of stuff backed up on my computer. Like I have like 10,000 images probably on here and clicks and stuff from when I used to try to stay up late and read, but due to my condition, I couldn't spend that much time reading, but it was so much stuff I wanted to go into, so I would just screenshot everything and try to keep it or at least share it or whatever. So anyways, I'm gonna tell you guys how I find other stuff. I took this sentence here and I Googled it. Well, a little portion of it. I'll probably have to add more in order to get to this particular book. But I just put the Columbus in a rich dress. And what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, and then this particular book came up. Where is it? Come on. Nope. Where are you? No, no, nope, nope. Mm-hmm. Let's see. Let's take some of this stuff down. Okay. Oh, where did you go? I'm sorry, guys. Okay. Here you go. Okay. All right. So this thing came up here, and it's an American Antiquities and Discoveries in the West, being an exhibition of the evidence that an ancient population of particular civilized nations, in order for you to be civilized, you would have to be in some of these places where they say in the South, in Mississippi and stuff like that, that there was populations of 50,000 and 100,000, some places in here. I mean, we just have to know, even if you just think back to the story that they gave you, that there was already people here. These people had a lifestyle. They had buildings, monuments, homes. They didn't just come here and it was a thick brush and they just, dug their way through. Of course, they would have never made it anyways. If this is the way that the whole country was being populated by people that were just living out in trees and huts and stuff, they would have never been able to infiltrate the place. So there was trading going on. It was almost like how it is today, but a little bit different. And the buildings were more pristine. They had more character. Let me just pull up something else. I hope I don't lose that. Okay? Y'all just gonna have to see me all over the place. I try not to be doing too much because I can get, I don't want to irritate nobody, and I can get sidetracked and brought all the way away from what I'm trying to do. Okay. These particular buildings are what I'm talking about. These estates. These here. This here. Hold on a second. I have a crazy child at my door. I'll be right back. Okay. Sorry. Not only did I get the door, that was rude. But I feel like when I'm on here talking, y'all like my company or something. It's like as if you was at my house and somebody rang the doorbell and I had to step out the room for a second and grab a cupcake on the way down. So these, excuse me, are the buildings that we are talking about. These particular type of things here that look like this. The fact that they're digging around here and there's an older, it's kind of like they just came, somebody was already here, somebody came and built on top of it, and then after they built on top of it, so-called Europeans came over here and then claimed it. So this is a so-called conspiracy, but like somebody said, why would they build all these magnificent buildings like this, only to some of these tear them down less than 50 years after they got built? And come on, these people don't even really know how to make anything like this again today. Look at this. Look at this. What is this under here? So, this is just not in America. I'll have to say these things right here, some of this stuff is all around the world. So some of this stuff resembles things that are all around the world, and they try to play it off like somebody built this in the 1900s. They never, even when we say we built this country, I don't think that we're actually thinking about on this caliber here. You hear me? So this stuff was here already. You know what I'm saying? Just because you see those people on the coast there. Okay, we can go back. These type of things. that's in New York and Chicago and all these other things. This, you have to understand, you are supposed to be inheritors of all of this stuff. Some of you, you know what I'm saying? And of course, we can probably go back as far as we can, but they're not going to be wanting you to, or allowing you to go back too far. And even if you do, what you going to do? You see what I'm saying? I just don't want you guys to be misled and think that some of these particular buildings, and again, like I said, there was these type of nations all over the world. So it wasn't just here in America. You know, I'm just bringing it to your attention. Stuff that we live in these cities and stuff, and we don't really pay attention to the beauty and the glory of some of these buildings and stuff that are right here in front of our face. There's this guy, John Levy or whatever, and he does a really good one on, like, I like the ones he does on, like, the fireplaces and the water towers, because this is all stuff that I already had questioned. But look at this. You know, if you go through your town, you'll see some of these homes that have, like, a partial windows that look like they're half down and under the ground and half above the ground. This other guy, Martin, whatever his name is, he does a lot of stuff on it. So what I'm saying is, it's something to look into. Okay? Genesis as a timeline. Oh, I might have to go back and look at that. Because again, although they're saying mud flood and they're speaking on this, once you connect the dots to what we're saying, and you start connecting that with the images that we've seen and the information that we've taken in, it's like, hold on a minute. Something else was going on here. So anyways, let's go back to this. That an ancient people... Really? Okay. That an ancient population of partially civilized... Oh, partially. See, you see how they just try to do stuff like that? Like, use partially. Come on now. Nations differing entirely from those of the present Indians people. Really? Or is that because you killed off those particular people? Is that because you have taken and killed off the elders, and then you went ahead and educated the children and re-educated the children on who they are and where they're from? Okay, so they don't know who, they can never clearly know who they are. So Indian peoples of America, many centuries before it's discovered by Columbus and inquiries into their origin. And let's not forget about the fact, like I just took a screenshot of a book I want to go into about Columbus. It's pretty old, so I like to have the first edition of stuff, and I like to go way back with stuff. So, and I think this is a third edition or something, but that's close enough. But not to mention that Columbus had already attempted to, or had something to do with trying to go here 3 times. That the time that he so-called discovered it was not the only time. And that they were also removing indigenous people from this land and taking them elsewhere already before he so-called discovered it. Okay? So, with the copious description of many of their stupendous works now in ruins. So, well, a lot of times when I look at these mounds and stuff, I really would like to know what else is going into these mounds. If we could try to take down buildings that's in these big cities, and they have what looks to be a whole nother entire building underneath it, underground, I would love to see what's really underneath those mounds. Were there underground nations? And did they, there was nations that built their homes on cliffs and stuff over here in the, basin area, or southwestern, or whatever you want to call it. I'm in the Midwest, but somewhere in between here and the West Coast. So Okay, now in ruins. So yeah, and that's the thing, who ruined it? You know what I'm saying? So they ruined things, and then you had no choice but to go into the woods that you probably, some of these people probably knew their whole lives and stuff from going doing things and going and gathering stuff or whatever they were doing. And this is where you had to stay and watch other people come in and assume the position or the roles that were once yours, um, you know, through your ancestors or whatever. So, with conjectures concerning that may have become of them. Okay, so compiled from travels, authentic resources or sources, and researchers of antiquarian societies. Okay, so, anyways, do we trust these people? Do we not? What they're saying? Or whatever, is everything in here gonna be the truth or no? So, you just have to. Okay, American antiquities. Da, da, da. Okay, the right whereof he claims as author. Okay, whatever. I just want to go to this part where, now here's some of the goodies. Sometimes I like to look at the table of context or contents. Origin of humanity, complexion. Oh wait, see y'all, I'm about to get sidetracked. Oh, let's see, Phoeba, could be Sheba, falls to the ground while the history as given by Moses respecting the flood of Noah remains unshaken. Now, why would this be in a chapter where we're going to talk about the complexions of the people? The same author has also discovered that a race of ancient peoples in South America called the Zapotecas boast of being antediluvian. Okay? Antediluvian. I like to use that term because it's a very important term that we never go into in America. And to have built the city of Cotlan or Cotetlan. That reminds me of one of those cities that I have watched documentaries and stuff like that about. So named because this city was founded at a place which swarmed with serpents. Therefore named Snake City. Now, who are the serpents? The plume serpent, the serpent. Could this be a serpent that was the oldest one in the garden? Or are they really talking about just some snakes was crawling around all over the place? Because how would that happen? Unless these are some majestic people that couldn't get bit by snakes or something or whatever. Or Kotlan, built 327 years before the flood. Okay. Built 300 some years before the flood. Okay. Now the antediluvian flood, when I look up that definition, we get 1640. So, I mean, we can assume or we don't have to. And at the time of the flood, a remnant of them together with their king named Petila or dog. That reminds me of Anubis. Like these names could, you know what I'm saying? But I could be reaching, but again, they do have that, the Quetzalcoatl or whatever. I can't remember what that dog is called. The hairless dog. And I'm not sure if it's got something to do with Mexico or South America. I'm just, going back and jogging my memory. And then, you got like somewhere over here, I don't know if it's, Vegas or somewhere in this somewhat kind of desert area where they have that Anubis statue that they've raised up at the airport or something, and that crazy horse and stuff. But okay, that's getting off the subject. But yeah, or dog saved them on a mountain of the same name, Kotlan. And this reminds me of that same documentary that I was just watching that I was telling you about that said something about the peoples that came and rested on the west coast close to the Andes mountains. And what was I watching? It was about oh man, shoot. They look kind of Asian. You know, the people that live in the Andes or down there right now. I can't remember, and I'm not gonna go all the way there. Gosh, I'm mad because I can't remember. Um, yeah, and how researchers were trying to find out why did these particular people stay uh, in that area. Why did they use this? A lot of cliffs and stuff, and I think there was like a the mountains, and then there was like a part that went down in the basin, and then there was a part that went up. Um, and I just can't remember what these people. And I'm pretty sure we all just know the name. I just can't remember right now. So, anyways, and they said that it was an ancient thing from back in before they even got there for the reason or whatever that their ancestors chose to stay there and not move. Um, so okay, but we consider this tradition to relate only to the first efforts at architecture after the flood of Noah. Round about the region of Ararat and on the plains of Shinar. Now, plains automatically, because like I told you guys, I believe that the Bible is talking about America, especially the Old Testament. So, when we're talking about plains, that just brings me right back to that thought. The very circumstance of the tribe being still designated by that of the dog tribe, it is an evidence that they originated not before the flood as a nation, but in Asia. Now, see, that might explain that coming across the Bering Straits and going ahead and moving down from that area all the way down along the coast to South America. But in Asia, since the era, and another thing I was just reading that was saying something about the indigenous people of America, except the people that came, the Mongoloid races. Something about the Mongoloid races that were upon all the people of the earth in America, but except for the Mongoloids that came down the Bering Strait. So, okay, before the flood as a nation, but in Asia, since that era, for in Asia, as in America, tribes of men have also been thus designated and called after the various animals of the woods. Now, this is what I'm saying. When we're going back into the Old Testament in Genesis, and we're talking about the beast of the field, and this and that, and the fowl of the air, and all these other things, that's another one that I didn't think about. That we could be talking about tribes. And I told you guys the other day that we could be talking about the coat of arms or family crest or things that go along with those family bloodlines. But then I never really thought also, when you think about the totem pole and stuff like that, and the animals being sacred to these people, and dressing in feathers and all these other things, and snake dances and stuff like that. Like they were, I was reading something about the Hopi Indians, and how one of the Indians, there was a Caucasian man that was there doing research on the tribe, and how he had a stick or whatever, and he was able to cast down that stick and it turned into a serpent. And it reminded me of that story of Moses. And I posted on my Facebook page probably like 6 months ago or something, a while back or whatever. But again, these things are starting. This is how, when I'm reading about why I can't get past a certain amount at a time anymore, because it's just stopping me right in my tracks and telling me what I might be looking at. And it's okay to do that. It's okay. They have us so scared to question these things and to question the word. No, this is exactly what you're supposed to be doing, is breaking it down. So anyways, and then once you think you know who we may be really talking about, then you can go further in and then that's something that can reside within yourself, and nobody can tell you nothing different. Once you see what you need to see, you're going to see it and you're going to know it. And there's a difference between knowing and faith and belief, period. Or the religion is built on faith and belief, because they know that you'll never be able to get to the root of things. So the Snake Indians, which might be the oldest in the garden, are well known to the Western explorers in America. as also many, and I wonder why. Okay, are these the ones that they infiltrated? Who knows? Also many other tribes who are named after various wild animals. We was not talking about the animals that we see in the world in Genesis in the first couple of chapters. I'm sorry. So, and the circumstance of their city being built at a place where there were many serpents, okay, shows the allusion to point to the same time and place spoken of in page 11, where Chinese history. And see, this is another thing. I think that I think it was a book that was out about China, 1511. I can't remember. I'm not going to just go there. But how they discovered America before anybody else, and how other people discovered America before anybody else, and all this other stuff supposedly. And then I look at the Asian persuasion of the world, and I look at India, where you could look at some of those people are Asian, Filipino, Japan, China, North Korea. You know, that we like to think like white people is like the highest population or something. And we kind of know that it's not. But here in America, since it's been this way, they decided to reside here and really pretty much overwhelm this area. We can't see outside of the box to see that Asia has a real big influence and a mixture of a bloodline that is bigger than we think. And then you think back of that Caucasians are called Asians, and then you start seeing, I start looking at like these people that of antiquities, or so-called white men of antiquities, and the ones that are now running like the Cherokee tribe and stuff like that. And if you look at their eyes, and the older that they get, you start seeing this Asian thing about them. A lot of documentaries a lot of researchers and stuff, you know, because they're going to keep us out of those fields forever. But a lot of these researchers and stuff, I noticed that if you really look at them, they have like that Asian fold in the eye. But they have so-called regular cranial structures and stuff like that. But then again, at one point in time, the race wasn't looked at about your skin color. It was looked at about the nose, the width of the nose, the lips, the jawline, and all these other things that were coming into play. But again, okay, Chinese historians, I just wonder if we just realize how deep, and that's what I was going to say. It's just like they had, the Asians or Chinese have such a hidden hand in the founding of America, and I just wonder why that is. And then now we're seeing that some people are saying that some parts of America might be being sold into the hands of the Chinese, or that they already own certain parts of the land. And it just makes you wonder how things are starting to shift, how they're buying up places in the islands, and how they're buying up places in Africa, and now they're trying to buy up pieces in. So did we just have a change of power here somewhere? And if you look at the way they treat you in their nail salons sometimes in certain places, is this really something that's going to be a sneak move where now we're going to be under the reign of somebody else? Okay. So, because that whole thing about the serpent and all that stuff, and that they was not supposed to mix and everything, and they got kicked out of the garden. So I'm just wondering if this has something pertaining to Asia being that hidden hand, or kicked out of sharing the immediate wealth of being a part of what this is, and how they used Asians to build the railroads, and what would they have known about the railroads if they was from somewhere else, and then they deported them and sent them back, or were they already here? You know, I just have so many questions, and so I guess this has turned into a questioning thing, but whatever. Okay, say the serpents were driven together by the waters. Okay, so what is that? Is that because were they driven together because because now the Spaniards and the Portuguese and whoever else was coming in on, you know, a lot of this has to do with commerce too, and trade and business. So anyways, is that what we're really talking about? Because you have to be careful when we're using the words waters. You know, and a lot of people want to just say like this got something to do with some water, dude. No. This could be referring to people that traveled the waters. Okay, we're according to the Zopetex something of the city of snakes, or the Kotlan was built. Okay, so we went a little bit too far in there because I was looking for this. Supposed origin of human complexion with the ancient significance of the names of the three sons of Noah and the other curious matter. The sons of Noah were three, as stated in the book of Genesis, between whose descendants the whole world, no, the whole earth, in process of time became divided. This division appears to have taken place in the earliest ages of the first nation after the flood, in such manner as to suit or corresponding with several constitutions of those nations in a physical sense. Okay? As well as with a reference to the variations, complexions of the descendants of the three heads of the human race. And if you guys ever seen that image with the African, the Chinese, the white, and whatever, and or the one that has the African and then the American Indian, but the complexions look the same, but the American Indian woman seems to have somewhat of a curly afro hair, and the African guy kind of looks like what they gave you the image of what a slave would have looked like back then. So anyway, so yeah, here we're just looking at that. You guys can go into it even further. Preparation of the nations in respecting animal constitution and color at the fountain head. Bruise thy head and something that I heal. Must have been directed by the hand of the Creator in an arbitrary manner, by which not only his sovereignty as the governor of the earth with all its tribes is manifest, but also his wisdom. And I think that's what's, see, wisdom is really guiding people at this point in time. Whether you guys believe in that kind of stuff or not. Okay, so I wrote down a page here that I want to get to, and I'm pretty sure there's so much more in this book. Shem lived 500 years after the flood. Oldest man on earth at the time. Da 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 da. Okay, so let's see. Let's just go to the page I want to be at. Okay, a cavern of the west in which are found many interesting hieroglyphics supposed to have been done by the ancient inhabitants. So let's just remember, this book is about the discoveries in the West, in America, in the Americas. And this book is a pretty old book. I will have to go back and look at the date, but let's just see, because we know that there's pyramids here. We know that all these things. So for us to say that ancient, now when they throw a term on something, when you're reading something, you'll notice that sometimes they'll use ancient Egypt. Well, that's the ancient Egypt. We're not talking about the modern day Egypt, the one that you see on the map today. That wasn't always called Egypt, wasn't always called Africa, just like this wasn't always called America. But and they know that you're not going to do the research and know that, or they're not going to teach you that in their schools that you think that you went to your whole life so you can learn everything that you need to know to get through this so-called life. But really, it's just they're just bringing you and grooming you into being a slave for these nations that are oppressing us and giving us a perception that we're free to do what we want, but we're all slaves in this day and age. If you have a birth certificate, then you are pretty much a slave, okay, a modern day slave. So we know about this, those of that have taken the time to look and research. There's some big secrets about that Grand Canyon. It's a lot. You know, they keep us focused on other countries and traveling abroad in order to see some kind of history or antiquity type of things, but most of it is here. And I wouldn't be surprised if most of what they have there wasn't torn down like it said in this book earlier, or that other book, and then they brought it over to other places to put it on display, because they know that the main people that is from this place from the beginning is not really going to be traveling over there in the droves to see this stuff. And even if they do, they're so busy thinking Israel and all this other stuff over there is what they need to be looking into and looking into, when it's really the one here. Okay? So, on the Ohio, 20 miles above the mouth of the Wabash, is a cavern in which are found many hieroglyphics and representations of such delineations as would introduce that belief that their authors were indeed comparatively refined and civilized. So not just a little bit, but they were. So, okay, and it is a cave in a rock or a ledge of mountain which presents itself to view. A little river flood, in the early settlements of Ohio. I'm sorry, I'm just trying to speak through because it was something I wanted to get to. But you guys can feel free to slow it down and look on your own. So this cave fitted up this dwelling, erect a signet post on the water side. Wasn't found no difficulty in forming a bond. New Orleans. After a lap of time, the merchants of the upper country began to be alarmed on finding their property makes no returns and their people never come back. Did this have something to do with slavery? Several families and respectable men who had gone down to the river were never. Oh, now what? Wait a minute. See, now when you find two books of antiquity like this, and they're both saying the same things, this is matching right back up to the video I just did that said something about how many people have been taken, a brother, a mother, a father, or whatever, and then taken away from where they couldn't see, and then sold off into what you might call slavery. Heard of, and the losses became so frequent that it raised. Now, could this be what the Civil War was maybe about even still too? Because there were some prominent so-called black men in Ohio and all these places that now you look at it and you see people of color there, and it's just gone to shambles. But, okay. A cry of individual distress and general dismay. This naturally led to inquiry, and large rewards were offered for the discovery of perpetration something of such unapparelled crimes. It soon came out that Wilson and the organized party of 45 men was the cause of such waste and blood and treasure. And okay, Hurricane Islands, whatever, knew the Natchez. That was just on my mind. You know what? Hold on, y'all, because that Natchez just brought me back to. Y'all just. Hopefully, I'm not boring y'all. We're just going with the flow. I'm not going to be able to rest until I. Peruvian? Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, Peruvian. Says Venezuelan. Inca. Part of the Inca Empire. Yeah, but Peruvian people is what I'm probably thinking. Okay. When I was talking about earlier. I'm sorry, I just had to do that. You know how when something on your mind. Okay. Let's see what else. Transaction soon broke up his party. Some disappeared, others were taken prisoner, and he himself was killed by one of his associates who was tempted by the reward offered for the head of a captain of the gang. And see, and that's the thing. Let's see, I want to get to the part where it was talking about a stony grazing manner of seats in the pit of the theater. The entrance present with a width of 80 feet at its base and 25 feet high. Now, see, that remind me of that building that I just showed y'all. I wasn't going to go there, but that kind of remind me of those buildings that I just showed you with that mud flood stuff, that the part was way down and then you got your higher, you know, buildings or whatever. And it just looked like it reminded me of like a Coliseum or whatever. Okay. The pit and theater on the ancient secret of the wall, and plainly discerned that the ancient inhabitants at a very remote period had made use of the caves as a house or deliberation and council. The walls bear many hieroglyphics, well executed, and some of them representation of animals, which have no resemblance to any now known natural history. Yeah, because y'all hid the part. So they're probably talking about all the camels and the horses and the elephants and stuff that they don't want you to know about. Excuse me. And I'm not saying that these people couldn't have come from somewhere else so long ago or something too. You know what I'm saying? Because the more I'm looking into this, that could be a possibility. I don't turn down new information. Connected. If we think that we just were here and nobody's mixed with anything, I think we better think again. Because again, the whole world was people with darker view people. And if you look at some of our features, some of us have rounder faces, some of us have larger skulls, some of us have sunken in eyes with dark rings around the eyes. Some of us have like Asian style eyes. Some of us have really big, I call them Egyptian style eyes. But even if you be honest with yourself and look at those Egyptian hieroglyphics, you can see that some of those people they try to put that eyeliner, but if you look at the eyes if you still look at the eyes without that, they still had Asian type eyes. So, plainly discerned that the ancient had. Okay, the cavern is great. Oh, and even if I'm saying the ancient Egypt, I hope I already said this, or I don't know if I did. That's not saying that there wasn't Egypts all over the place. You see what I'm saying? I'm just saying that let's not forget the fact that America was one. Could have been even the first one, because I'm saying when you go back through the Americas, they're larger pyramids here than the one on Giza and all these other places, and they're older. So who knows? With the chasing of people back and forth, who knows what could have been going on? Okay, so this looks like a lot of good information, y'all, but I know I've been keeping you long. Still curious. Here caves. Okay, the sun in different stages of rise and declination, or declination. The moon under various phases. A snake biting its tail. So bruise thy head and whatever is heel. Okay, maybe that wouldn't work right there, but just saying. The representation. The viper, vulture, buzzard. Okay, panther. Black Panther. Okay. Let's see. Claws. Besides were several fine representations of men and women, not naked, but clothed. Not as Indians, but much in the costume of Greece and Rome. I'm trying to tell you. Now, see, how does this happen? How does it? This is what happens to me, and this is why I usually get so much information, and I really can't get it out. So I'm kind of glad that I'm doing this way, and I hope that you guys aren't too bored to death. But this is just what I do sometimes. But just like I was just telling you with that other image of those people that were in the white clothing. It looks something more like ancient. So somebody was being moved. There was a whole bunch of stuff going on here and attacks on different areas here. So I'm trying to tell you, there was a prominent race with kingdoms and uh, nations. I like to call them, instead of kings and queens, empress and emperors. Um, I really think that that's what was going on here. And the fact that when they became Indians, were once there was probably even mixture of people from other places. Who knows? And but what I'm trying to tell you guys, when I say indigenous, everybody has their own way of interpreting this. Is that there were people here before slavery. So don't just think that you came over on a boat from Africa then. We could be a mixture of I don't know what that created the Indian. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not just saying that everybody is pure blood, this, and that. And the names that we've been given for tribes and stuff, that is just names that were given. You don't know how the people could have been just as one period. And race didn't matter at all. Now you have what you have here. But the whole thing is though, once you were here, they had to reduce the size, the numbers, okay? Reduce the knowing of thyself, reduce all of that stuff because you could not know that you were here first. They had to wipe away all of that. So now what difference would that have made, or what difference does it make now? But nobody can never look at you again and say, go back to Africa, which was one of the things that we all hated, that we would never want to hear anybody say to us. And it's just like, no, you found me here. So go back and do some research. So at the end of the day, there must be some reason why they've tried to physically, mentally, and all the other things remove us from this landmass. Okay? So, and all things didn't start in Africa, in my opinion. So, what are Australian Aborigines? You know what I'm saying? So, what are the Fiji and all the other nations over here that they're killing off right now, too? Okay, no, they're not talking about that big genocide that's going on over there in Guinea, Papua New Guinea, I believe it is, right now, with other Afro peoples. Okay, so okay, so I'm sorry. Much in costume of Greece and Roman. And these would have been the people that I'm trying to tell you about, would have been living in these homes, in these big palaces, and these big places that have been turned into post offices and stuff like this. And they may have been of larger stature. They might have been a little bit taller. You know what I'm saying? A race. Okay? So not as Indians, but as we must at once perceive that these objects, with an exception or two, were employed by the ancient Greek to display. Now, even if they show you that Greek over there in those ruins, and they try to tell you that that's Greece, there could have been a Grecian people or the same thing over here too. Because when it comes to Tartaria and all these places, you can go around the world, even in Asia, in India. They have things that you would think came from Europe. You know what I'm saying? Buildings and stuff that you would think came from there. And this is just what I'm trying to tell you. These places did not have to be, I think it was more about the people and the culture instead of just saying that it was about the landmass. Okay? So, were employed by the ancient Greeks to display the nature of the world, the omnipotence of God, and the attributes of man. And I would like to look at this word. I don't think I've ever seen that word before. The utility of rendering his knowledge systematically immortal. All human science flourished amongst the Egyptians long before they were common to any other people. The Grecians in the day of Solon. I would like to look up that word too. Never seen that. And okay. About 16 BC. And again, with this 16 BC, there's no scholarly way of telling you guys what I think, even with the BC and the AD. But I be thinking, really, could this really have meant It could have meant 600, but it can also have meant 1600 to me. So I don't know. Okay, and then it says something about, I was trying to get to the part where it said that they had taken the stuff away. And Herodotus. Oh, and also in that documentary, they talked about the 10 rulers that ruled for a very long time. It was like 66,000 years for this one and that one that ruled in the Americas prior to Columbus coming here. You know what? I'm going to try to find that documentary and I'm going to put it in here so that you guys can either look at the link or maybe, I don't know. I'm going to try go ahead and just put it on here so you guys can watch the whole thing. I don't know if that's allowed though. So like I said, I'll have to look into that. Okay. Greatest secrets. Profane. But in here they did say how they hauled away the stuff. And why would they do that? Why wouldn't Americans be flocking to these places that have hieroglyphics and they just be open and we talk about it openly? And why wouldn't they do that? If this is America, why wouldn't they do that? They do it everywhere else. Why? You got to just even question yourself on that. Okay, all their divinity, philosophy, and their greatest secrets were comprehended in the ingenious character for fear of whatever. Okay, the sun, most glorious, visible, chief god, received the adoration for whatever. The moon denoted the next beautiful object. So this is something that I think you guys will find interesting to go through. All this stuff right here. And then the dress of the females carved into the cave have a Grecian cast, their hair encircled by the crown. And there's another image that reminds me, I don't know if you guys seen it with that European guy and the Afro Indian woman with the feathers in her headdress. And I think it's like the image of them over like New York or something like that. Kind of reminds me of that. But anyways, so yeah, I think that's it. If I find some more stuff, I'll come back to it. I have somebody calling me, so I have to go. But yeah, I will try to put this link in the description, or you guys can see right here the title right here in the thing. So I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I will see you guys soon.